What's going on, Yugi Bros? Another duel video for you guys today. This time we are showcasing the power of Ojamas. Now, we originally, as we test these decks, we usually go up a ladder of options and see which ones it tests best against, and thus produce the best replays. This one got right to the top against XYZ, so we're going to showcase what it can do. Like I said, we're going to not explain everything off the top, we're going to explain it as we go, but to recap the skills real quick, our opponent is playing Union Combination. This is a skill that lets them fuse from the field/graveyard for their XYZ fusions, and we are playing Fusion Party. Yes, Fusion Party. I'm not kidding when I say this. This is the skill that lets us once per duel, basically polymerization from hand or field. We're going to set two cards, being Ojama and Double Cyclone, and pass. They're going to normal summon Z Metal Tank. They're going to set a face down Book of Moon. And they're going to go to battle phase. They're going to have Z attack. We're going to take the 15, and in the end phase, we're going to activate Double Cyclone. Double Cyclone says you target a spawn drop on each side of the field and destroy them. Now, we have destroyed our Ojama. They have destroyed their Book of Moon. Ojama says if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, add one each, Ojama Green, Ojama Yellow, and Ojama Black from deck to hand. It's really good, but by itself does literally nothing. You have to facilitate it through something else. But Double Cyclone here triggers it, so we are going to use its effect, and we add one yellow, one green, and one black to our hand. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. We're playing Fusion Party. Why are we playing Fusion Gate? Well, interesting thought. We'll get to that in a second. We draw into Ojama. This card's actually pretty good. We're going to use its effect, pitch the extra green in our hands, since we already have a copy of it. This then lets us add a Ojama monster with a different name than the one we sent, and an armed dragon monster from our deck or graveyard to our hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one of those monsters. So we're going to use its effect, adding the armed dragon and an Ojama Blue to our hand. We're going to then normal summon the Ojama Blue and fulfill the resolution. Then we're going to activate Fusion Gate. We're going to banish a copy of each green, yellow, and black, and we're going to drop our boy Ojama King. This card is kind of crazy. So it says choose up to 3 of your opponent's unused monster zones. Those zones cannot be used. This happens immediately when it hits the board. You can't change the zones that you choose once you choose them. So in this sense, we're going to choose these 2 zones. And I think we indicate it with a token. Yes, we indicate it with this weird looking token that doesn't seem like it should be in this game. Also, the way this works, so let's say it gets flipped face down through a Book of Moon, for example. Once you flip it back up, you re-choose your zones. It only happens upon which it hits the board. We're going to then trigger Ojama in our graveyard. This card also, for some reason, has a grave effect, stating that during your main phase, you can banish this card from a grave, target 3 of your banished Ojama monsters, shuffle them into the deck, and draw a card. And since Fusion Gate banishes the materials rather than sending them to the graveyard, it allows us to actually use this effect wholeheartedly, giving us back Ojama Green, Black, and Yellow, and drawing us an extra card. So we draw into Creature Swap. This is even better. We're going to then Creature Swap for the Z Metal Tank, giving them Ojama Blue. Ojama Blue says if it dies by battle and sent to the grave, we can add any 2 Ojama cards from deck to hand. Any 2. Doesn't matter the name. Doesn't have to be different names. We could even add 2 more Ojama Blues if we so desire. And this is really good with Creature Swap. Not to mention the whole deck is 0-1000 monsters. Creature Swap's pretty good in general. We're going to go to battle phase. This unfortunately has 0 attack, but it has 3k defense, so we're going to sit on that. We're going to have Z swing into the blue, and then we're going to trigger Blue's effect. Blue will give us an Ojama and an Ojama. If you guys haven't figured it out yet, Ojama sends a card from hand or face up field, so we can send Ojama from our hand to the grave to trigger it and match and fulfill match's requirements. We're going to then pass on to XYZ. They're going to draw into a Dust Tornado. They'll normal summon a Y Dragon Head. They're going to Foolish their X Head Cannon. Unfortunately, they don't have their Z Metal Tank because we have it. But that's fine with them. They're going to fuse into XY. They're going to then activate its effect, pitching the Dust Tornado to essentially pop what they would have popped with the Dust Tornado, that being Fusion Gate, since XY can destroy a face-up spell or trap on the field. They're going to set Union Scramble, go into battle phase, and swing over their Z Metal Tank. We don't take damage, however, because they use the skill to summon this, therefore we don't take the battle damage this turn. We draw into a copy of Ojama Country. We go to the main phase, we're going to activate Ojama. As I stated previously, we're going to pitch our magic, add a copy of Armed Dragon level 5 to hand, and an Ojama Blue. Then our Ojama would trigger, then we're going to finish the condition by normal summoning the Ojama Blue through Ojama's effect. Then magic triggers on a new chain, allowing us to add black, yellow, and green back to hand. This deck's hand advantage is nuts. Yes, it's a bunch of 0-1000 monsters, but either way, that can be relevant. We're gonna then use our regular normal summon to summon Armed Dragon level 5. We play this because we're forced to play it through Ojama's effect, but this card's actually got a pretty good effect. You can send a monster from your hand to the grave, then target a monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to the sent monsters and destroy that target. This also isn't once per turn. So if for some reason you needed to pop more than one monster, you could. But the upside about playing 2 armed level 5s is we're going to use its effect, sending another 5 to destroy their XY Dragon Cannon. We're going to then activate our skill, Fusion Party. This card allows us to send 3 Ojamas from our hand, or 2 Ojamas from our hand. In this case, we're going to send 2 to summon Ojama Knight, which only requires 2 Ojamas. This then says it can choose up to 2 of your opponent's unused monster zones and choose them. So we're going to try to lock them out completely. They, however, are going to chain the Union Scramble here to put 1 monster on their field, so they still have something. We're going to activate Ojama Country. Ojama Country is a neat card. 2 effects. The first one is once per turn you can send an Ojama card from your hand to the grave to special summon an Ojama from your grave. So if this or this ever dies, you can bring them back, but also you can bring back your little guys as well for a little bit more recursion. The second effect is much more relevant, and that is while you control an Ojama monster, it switches the original attack and defense of all monsters on the field. So our Knight is now 2500 attack, our King is now 3000 attack, our Armed Dragon unfortunately is now 1700 attack, but that's of a little consequence considering the fact that this is all but game. We were shocked to see how good this deck did in testing. Granted, it has its flaws, it has its downsides, as all decks do. I'm not going to definitively tell you that Ojama's is the best deck going into this format. We still have a lot of untested decks as it is, and there's a lot more options we could go about currently, but I digress. They're going to start out here with a Y, a Z, a Scramble, and a Foolish. They're going to set the Y and pass. Now, I think the reason they go first here, and it's kind of interesting, is because they don't want us to turn 1 Ojama King, and the way we can do that is because we have our Skill Fusion Party, we can always fuse no matter when we want. Like, the craziest thing is we could turn 1 no matter what our hand is. As long as we get 2 Ojamas, we can make Knight. But the best play, obviously, is if we can send Magic turn 1, we can drop King, which kind of puts any opponent in this situation where they're kind of forced to go first and do something to a zone so that we can't then affect all their zones. Unfortunately, we don't open the greatest here, so we're going to set blue, which is probably the best one to set going forward. We're going to set Book of Moon and pass on that. They're going to draw into Book of Moon. They're going to flip their Y. They're going to summon their Z. They're going to then banish both of them to summon YZ, and rightfully so. If they assume that we have blue set, which we in fact do, this destroying it will get around its effect where if it dies by battle, we can add 2 Ojama cards. So it's a nice theory and all, but on the summon, we're going to flip Book of Moon to flip that boy face down. They, of course, have the recovery and scramble. We don't know that as of yet, and they have Book of Moon, so they're sitting pretty as it is for right now. We draw into Order to Charge. Now, this card is interesting for a couple reasons. The first is it's a quick play spell, and it's spot removal. You target a non-token normal monster you control, you tribute that normal monster, and if you do, destroy 1 monster your opponent controls. Now, this card doesn't target, which is good in the right matchup, depending on what you're playing, but it's also just a spell spot removal card that's not offering us to do. We're not skipping our draw phase, we're sending one of our normal monster Ojamas to the grave, and as you've seen already, they're easily recyclable. We're going to set it, however, because even if we use it here to pop this, we can't swing with anything because these are 0 attacks, so we're just going to pass on this. End phase, they're going to flip the Scramble, bring out the Y and the Z, and they're going to go into the draw phase and draw into Sphere Karibo. They're going to flip YZ Tank Dragon. We're going to activate Order to Charge to get rid of it once and for all, so that hopefully they don't pop our blue. They're going to then, however, activate Foolish, sending X-Hut Cannon to the graveyard, so they have all 3 pieces here to activate their Union combination. And they will unfortunately drop the XYZ Dragon Cannon. Normally you would think, oh, well, they're pitching spheres, so at least they're losing advantage. No, guys, Scramble is still at 3 for some reason. So they're going to banish that, get a piece to their hand. Do I sound salty? No, not. Of course not. Of course not. They're going to add X-Head Cannon, use its effect, and pop our blue. They can't, however, do damage that turn because they used Combination's effect, so at least we're safe for 1 turn. We draw into Ojama Magic. Now, this is an interesting situation because we're going to activate Ojama Country, use its effect, pitching Magic for our cost, and then we can bring back blue in defense. Then we will trigger Magic's effect and add green, yellow, and black to hand. It's not fantastic, but we'll definitely take it. Don't forget we have our skill, so then we'll fuse green, yellow, and black together and drop king, who's at 3,000 because of our country. We're going to have king try to swing into XYZ here. They're going to flip the Book of Moon that they have set. So unfortunately, not only does the zones not matter that we would have actually blocked out, but, you know, they had the Book of Moon for that. So unfortunately, we can't do too much with that. They're going to use XYZ's effect here, pitching the Z middle tank to pop our king, because they can't kill it by battle. They're going to then banish an X and a Z with union combination, and summon an XZ, probably for more damage. They meant to actually use XYZ's effect once again here, and they'll show it to us here. So they're going to use XYZ pitching the Sphere Kuriboh to pop the country, because otherwise country would just get back king, and at that point it's really irrelevant as to why you would even pop it in the first place. So we let them take that back. We draw into creature swap. Now this is an interesting one. We're going to activate it, give them a blue. They're going to give us obviously the weaker of the two monsters. We're going to set green as a chump block, and we're going to have XZ tank swing right into our blue, thus triggering blue's effect to give us 2 Ojama cards. We're going to add another country, and we're going to add Ojama to our hands. We're going to pass on that. We figure we're in a pretty good situation. They're kind of out of resources as of right now. They're going to draw into Z metal tank. They're going to use XYZ's effect, pitching the Z metal tank, destroying our face down defense. They probably thought it was a blue. That was a good idea on their part. They're going to then swing over our XZ. We're going to take 400 damage. And all they know is we have country and match in hand. And then we draw into magic to add insult to injury. Now, to be fair, we can't activate magic because there's 2 greens and 2 yellows here, and we only play 2 of each of the normal monsters. So we're going to pitch that, because it's dead, off of Ojama here. We're going to use its effect to add a blue and an Armed Dragon level 5 to hand, and then we're going to elect not to use the extra normal summon that card gives us. We're going to then activate Ojama Country, pitching Ojama Blue, because this does require us to pitch an Ojama card, otherwise I would gladly pitch the Armed Dragon level 5 to bring back King. King's effect will activate, and it will take out 2 of their zones. Then we'll have King swing over XYZ. It's so crazy to say that Ojama's is holding its own here. They're going to top deck. They top deck into Union Hanger. However, they actually don't have any more pieces left for their Z metal tank. All 3 of their Zs are banished, so they're going to just set the Y and pass. We draw into Ojama Red. We're going to trigger our country once again, pitching the red and bringing back blue. That way, worst case scenario, if blue dies, we get 2 Ojama cards, but don't forget, because this is still in the field, blue's attack is actually 1,000, so it can do a little bit of damage. We're going to then tribute it for our Armed Dragon level 5, because he's a little bit bigger. We're going to have him swing over the monster. We're actually just going to have King swing in for game. So a quick 2-0. I wanted the video to be a bit quicker as it was anyway, just to showcase off its new skills, but also considering how long my videos have been between both Decklist and Duel video. I think I'm going to split them up in the future just to make it, you know, a little bit more interesting, less length, more just for the duels, and then the second video just for the Decklists. But for this list, we actually played 30 cards, and if you could believe it, I think it's actually more consistent this way than it would have been at any lesser number. You could probably cut a few cards to make it a little bit more consistent, but, you know, going into this, we play 2 copies of yellow, 2 copies of green, 2 copies of black. The reason I do this is even though we can loop them between this, it's not as consistent. The Fusion Gate we only play as a 1 of. It's too gimmicky to play more than that. And it's obvious, and it's an easy side out going into games 2 and 3 anyways. But the banish effect here only comes up relevant when you banish them through this card. So a lot of the times you'll open one, and then something like this will just be dead because you have to add 1 of each. So we play 2 of each. We play 2 red. I think this is the worst one. If it's normal summon, you can special summon up to 4 Ojama monsters from your hand in attack position. It's okay. It's not fantastic. Obviously, you can't summon 4 in this game. Your max is going to be 2 if you normal summon this. We actually might bump blue up to 3. We wanted 2 of each just to keep the consistency for now, but I can make an argument for a 3rd blue and 1 less red, or just another blue in general. 2 Armed Dragon level 5 just to keep this card live. I understand that it adds from from deck or graveyard, but there are situations where you will open 1 level 5, or you will add the level 5, and then you'll hit this later on, and the 5 will still be in hand, and you just can't waste the 5 in the hand to make it relevant. Unfortunately, these don't pitch cards, they pitch Ojama cards. If it pitched cards, we'd clearly just dump 1/5 and keep 1/5. 3 Ojama Magic. This is the card that if it's sent from hand or field to grave, you add 1 of each. You play this at 3 because you want to see it as fast as possible. Understandable that it's searchable, but still you want to see it. Same with 3 Ojama Match. This card is actually really good. I didn't expect to see how good it would have been with only 1 Armed Dragon Ojama card, but it has done wonders. 2 copies of Ojama Country. We only need 2 because A, we can search it, B, we play the 1 metaverse, and while we're not trying to resolve the metaverse too often to make this live early, I feel like you don't need 3. Once you have it, and if they out it, you get the other one. 1 copy of Fusion Gate to give us more fusion consistency and fusion monsters. As I've said, our skill only lets us fuse once per duel, so having a little extra boost to fuse is also relevant. 2 White Elephant's Gift. This card is interesting. You send a face-up non-effect monster you control to the grave to draw 2 cards. I understand we're playing 30, so why would you play a draw 2 in a deck that's already 30? That argument could be made more for like an upstart goblin, but because you get 2 cards, it's actually a little bit more relevant and gets you to more combo pieces rather than just having these dead on the field. Even if you have this, they're not dead, they're 1,000, but like, wouldn't you want to draw 2 cards at that point? I could make the argument that if you're going to play this, you play something like Sphere Karibo instead of Book of Moon in the main deck. That's definitely plausible, but I just like being able to flip something face down rather than whatever they're using get their effect. It's really good against XYZ in that situation. 2 copies of Creature Swap because everything you play has 0 attacks, so easy swaps. I'll take their free boss monster for my Ojama any day, and swapping blue obviously makes blue even better because then you get 2 free searches. Book of Moon, like I said, it's just a defensive card. It's really good. Also, if you want to flip your king face down on a turn where maybe it didn't hit all 3 zones and then you wipe their zones the following turn, you flip king back up, you can choose all 3 zones, so it's kind of cool with that. Same with Ojama Knight if he didn't hit his full 2 zones. 2 copies of Double Cyclone. This card's just really good to remove stuff, but you have a lot of extra things that don't need to be on the field forever to be sent with this card, and obviously it has its synergy with Ojama Magic. I thought 3 was a bit too much, but 2 is just right. And then the 1 copy of Metaverse to either get you your country or your Fusion Gate. The side deck is interesting. We actually play 2 copies of Order to Charge. You saw how it was in the replay. This card's actually pretty interesting in this deck. 2 copies of Super Rush Recklessly. I never thought this was going to be relevant going into speed duels, but actually pleasantly surprised how good this is. You target a beast monster you control and 1 monster your opponent controls. You destroy your beast monster, and if you do, you shuffle the second target, the monster your opponent controls, into the deck. It's actually good against a lot of different decks. Specifically anything spellproof armor related, because the spells obviously can't do anything to that. 1 copy of Order to Smash. This is what we're playing instead of the 3rd Double Cyclone in the side deck. You target a level 2 or lower non-token normal monster you control. You tribute that monster, and if you do, destroy up to 2 spell or traps your opponent controls. Being a Twin Twister is kind of nice against heavy back row decks. And then the last one is a major upset. You tribute a face-up attack position level 2 or lower monster you control. Return all level 7 or higher special summon monsters to the hand. This is good in its own specific situations. It gets rid of Ancient Gear Golem, which is a huge pain in my ass for most matchups right now. And in general, it's just a really good, it returns all, so not just even 1, like you're just a mass spot removal type card here. Another argument you could play in this deck is Justy Break. I haven't messed enough with this to feel like if I want to play it or not, but it's when your opponent declares an attack on your normal monster, you destroy all monsters on the field except attack position normal monsters. My argument with it is it'll destroy these if these are on your field, and you kind of don't really want to do that. Your focal point isn't the normals in the deck, but you have plays that revolve around normal monsters or level 2s. It's kind of a win more option that I don't feel like kind of justifies itself, no pun intended. The last card that people ask me why we don't play this is Ojama Delta Hurricane, and the main reason for this is simply because this requires you to control all 3 green, yellow, and black to use it. Yes, it destroys all cards your opponent controls, that's crazy and all, but having all 3 of these on board is a lot tougher than it makes it out to be. Yes, you can reborn with Ojama Country, and yes, you can add them to hand with this, and then normal summon them to your own leisure. Get a normal summon through this, get a normal summon to your normal summon, and maybe reborn the 3rd, but it's situational to get this. I know it's searchable, but again, it's very situational. It's much easier to add all 3 to hand and then fuse from the hand than it is to add all 3 to hand and then drop all 3 to the field to activate this card. So that's why we're not playing it. And then, of course, the extra deck is just 3 copies of Ojama King, 3 copies of Ojama Knight. No, not realistically, you'll never drop more than, 1 in 1 max, maybe 2 Knights depending, but the extra deck's a dud outside of that, so I figure we just keep consistency where it's at. But guys, those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Please let me know in the comments down below. What other decks would you like us to test? Let me know. Do you think Ojama's is one of the top tier decks going into speed duels, or is this more gimmicky than anything else? Let me know. And before I go, hey Pegasus, you got something to say?
For more amazing speed duel content, subscribe to Yugi Bros. Now go. Relinquished. Absorb his monster.